Welcome back to the desk, everyone. My name is Ardog with the Triple Gs. It's day 2 of PCC8 Swiss Stages, and I am joined by Joey and Tang. Exclamation point bracket to follow along the games and see the rosters as well as the current standings. Game number 2 for you guys that we're going to be showcasing are the Space Cadets versus Nightshade. Both of these teams are new and are currently 0-1 in the standings.
0-1 at least today. They did make it through yesterday. Nightshade did put up a pretty decent performance against Professors before, but the Professors can't be beat quite yet, still unbeatable so far. But I think Space Cadets and Nightshade is going to be a pretty interesting matchup to see, right? Because both of those teams probably not in the contention of actually winning the tournament, at least from what we've seen so far. But both of those teams are going to try to make their way into the top 8, into the main event that we are going to have later this month.
Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see this match because the last match was like the Doctors and like Burger Flip. It's like a old veteran strong team versus like a newer team, and that was sort of like one-sided. But this time it's gonna be two newer teams on the scene. They're both hungry to make it into the top 8 seeding for the actual tournament. So it's gonna be interesting to see some maybe unconventional stuff being put out from both these teams, because I think we got familiar with like the meta draft and like what the higher ranking teams like to do the draft. But this time we're gonna see some two newer teams doing the draft. They might pull some stuff that it's going to be quite different than we're used to, but whatever works in their favor is going to help them get into that top 8 seats.
And part of that, there's a lot at stake here for both of these teams, but one of the heroes that we kind of want to highlight is the Zarus. Looking at the numbers here, he's been played a lot.
Definitely has, and I think there is a reason for that looking at the win rate, right? 63%, Zarus provides a lot of lockdown, a lot of damage, a lot of, honestly, catch potential as well. Synergizes really well with some other heroes in the meta right now. Thinking of the Iggy and the Gadget, especially. Locking somebody up in sort of your area of denial is one of the ways to instantly win a team fight. That's why we see a lot of priority on that hero so far.
Yeah, and from Space Cadets at least, Just Roll TV is the jungler, and he loves the Zarus pick right here. So that's going to be a highly contested pick to be on the lookout from Space Cadets, and maybe even Nightshade will probably ban that out to take away the comfort pick from Just Roll TV. But it is still quite insane to see a 56% pick rate, 40% ban rate, and a 63% win rate. That is really high up there. I've seen some heroes that have a high pick rate but a very mediocre 50% win rate. But there's a reason why Zarus is a really highly contested pick, and the stats alone will tell that. But that also kind of shows why some other picks like the Iggy, Scourge, and Aurora are actually very good, because both of those heroes are actually very good to Zarus. Like Aurora is a very good engage and disengage hero in the sense that it's Zarus cage your team. All Aurora needs to do is just go in off the entire enemy team, and they can't follow up on that Zarus cage. And the Iggy Scourge having so much AoE damage coming from afar is going to be really hard to deal with, and be really hard to follow up on that Zarus cage right there.
He's just such a versatile, flexible hero. We mentioned this earlier during the draft. He could be flexed over in the offlane. He could be in the jungle, but we gotta see the draft. It's time to see where this hero will be. Is he going to be a first ban by Nightshade, or will Space Cadets secure him on their side instead? That's one of the heroes that we have to talk about, and we saw the stats. The numbers speak for themselves. A lot of teams have been winning with this guy on their side.
Definitely is, right? But a thing that Joey did bring up off stream was that Zarus does get countered by something like the Aurora as well at times, because actually no, the other way around, right? Some meta heroes like the Aurora get countered a tiny bit because there is actually an iframe where you are invincible if you pop your ultimate. So the Zarus pick is actually pretty decent into those heroes, but instead we see the Aurora being banned away. Nightshade does not want to deal with that whatsoever, so that leaves a few other meta picks up for Space Cadets. We did see in the last series that the Quang was banned away. Instead we see the Gadget, so a bit of a focus on those big team fight ultimates. Maybe rely more on sort of the split push, maybe rely more on sort of the traditional sort of macro gameplay instead of just the wombo combos in those team fights.
Yeah, looking at the first two bans of the Aurora and Gadget, you almost like forcing Nightshade to pick up the series first, because a series that has to deal with the Aurora or Gadget on the other side, it's going to be a really tough time for that hero, and we know that Space Cadets love the series pick in the jungle especially, so it's almost like if Nightshade doesn't pick up series right here, they miss that huge opportunity of picking a hero that's going to be a little bit hard to counter, but also take away the comfort pick away from Space Cadets, and yep, there we go, we see the series being first pick right there. That's probably what Nightshade wanted to do in the first place anyways. They want to like secure Zeros, but they don't want to deal with the Aurora that's disengaging from the Zeros case, so that's why they ban her out first, and I should say that's a very smart strategy from Nightshade to pick up Zeros right there.
Looking forward to seeing what they can do with the Xerath. We mentioned he can be a flex pick on the offlane or the jungle, but on the other side, Space Cadets are going to be securing the mage, the Space Wizard Gideon over on their side, who has and offers a lot of mobility. He also deals a lot of AoE damage.
So Gideon being picked up, so they could transition into something like a Deca, make sure that Nightshade does not have one of those sort of easy cancels for that ultimate up available for themselves, so that would be a decent pick. I think the Gideon pickup with the Gadget band is one of the sort of classic counters, right? Like the Gadget into the Gideon, make sure that even if that Gideon gets his ultimate off, Gadget ults on top of it and you are still fine. As we see the Deca pick actually go through, we look like wizards this time, Joey. And the Richter being picked up on the other side together with that Xerath. So that Richter is most likely gonna go in the support role, could be transitioned over to the jungle or the offlane role as well, because on the support role it's not bad, but it's gonna have a bit of a rough time into a Deca.
I want to say one thing, and I actually really like the Gideon pick from Space Cadets, because the big thing that Zeus wants to do with this cage is goes in, he cases someone, and his team kind of like dogpile on that person. But if Gideon plays more reactionary this game in terms of like he waits for the Zeus cage to go drop down, and then Gideon ults on top of that cage, well guess what? You think you're stuck in here with me? No, you're stuck in here with my Black Hole Gideon ultimate right there. So I actually really like that counter pick on that mage right there. It's just going to be a very good answer to what they're going to try to do with the sales right there. But a Wraith being picked up on Nightshade is actually very, very interesting. We haven't really seen Wraith at all in this whole tournament. There was a time where he was like really strong, and then the meta decided like we will commit like every patch because they're really trying to nail down a perfect balance between a hero that can be accessible to more players, but a hero that doesn't completely stomp people and higher elos. And so far, Wraith just not like the kind of top pick, I would say right now. It's very hard to execute, but he is doing a little bit better on this patch. I think Nightshade is just kind of taking that a little bit risk with that pick, but I think if they're picking up Wraith right here, they show a lot of confidence on that kind of ADC pick right there.
And you mentioned this earlier, Joey. We are going to be something unconventional, or maybe something new or different from both of these teams, because there's a lot at stake here. Both of them want to get out of the Swiss and get into the main event. So we see that Wraith that can be picked over on the mid lane or over on ADC, but as a response, we're seeing that Drongo and Decker.
Drongo Deca really strong. Honestly, Drongo a really good pickup against the Wraith and the Richter. Can use that ultimate to disengage from that rewind as well, due to the unstoppable on that ultimate. So all in all, Space Cadets dual lane looks pretty dangerous, as Joey said, right? The Wraith is pretty strong, but honestly, like I have a flowchart on when to pick Wraith, and it's, is your name Neft? Yes, you can pick Wraith. Is your name Neft? No? Then just don't pick it, right? That is at least my opinion so far. I think Nightshade might prove me otherwise in this game, and I'm honestly open to that option as well, of course, right? As we go into the bans. So we do have the mid pool still open for Nightshade, so I'm sort of expecting Space Cadets to potentially look for that, especially considering that they haven't picked up any bruisers for themselves yet. So Nightshade does the smart thing, bans away the Grux, removes the sort of bruiserish options for the side of Space Cadets. If I was drafting for Space Cadets, I wouldn't ban any bruisers. Instead, I would look to maybe ban something like the Iggy. Instead, we're gonna skip the ban and go straight for a Chimera pick, apparently.
Yeah, I almost want to see Nightshade, like, I think picking the race early is like kind of a mistake because no one expects someone to pick race or ban race, right? And I kind of feel like Nightshade should prioritize mid a little bit more because there's a potential that that mid roster is gonna get squeezed even more by like the Space Cadets, right? Because right now, like on Nightshade's side, they really like the high sustained damage, right? And Iggy Scourge is a perfect complement to their lack of sustained damage. So if they really want to do the race strategy, save it for the last two picks because basically it's not going to put on the bingo card that Nightshade is going to pick race, right? But I think that was just a kind of missed opportunity. But instead, we're going to see Revenant pick up right here. So this is almost like, this is actually indicating that this is actually a race mid, which I was sort of like thinking, is there a chance it's going to be a race mid against a Gideon? Maybe, but is Nightshade going to do that? Probably not. But I guess they're all just going to do that unless it's a Revenant mid, but that's not going to happen. That's going to be Revenant ADC. So I would consider both race and Revenant to be kind of like the two like ADCs that's kind of like not the greatest in this meta but can work, and Nightshade just decided to pick up both of them. So they must have some kind of strategy they want to really do, but I just really don't like the fact that they're still lacking that sustained damage. Like sure, you have that burst damage, but all Space Cadets need to do is just pick up another tank, and yep, that tank is gonna just kind of walk over you the whole game.
Yeah, this is looking kind of scary for Nightshade. I don't know if they're going to be able to manage to pull it off, but maybe we'll see. We'll have to see how they will use this team comp to their advantage. But they're going to secure that Serath as their last pick.
So I don't want to be a negative Nancy, right? But as the guy with the German accent, I feel like I have to, right? Like looking at Nightshade's comp, it does look like there's a lot of cooking going on. I think, generally speaking, right, if you have something like the Saras, you want to utilize that cage to actually get some AoE damage off, as Joey was highlighting, right? There's no sustained damage in that comp. It can be fine if you lock somebody in and Seraph is just going to use the LMB button to say good night. But I think in general, you want to have something like a more reliable, more sort of team focused, with that Revenant, for example, just giving you the exit via the Shadow Realm as well. I think those heroes don't synergize as well, and especially as the Wraith in that mid lane, he's gonna have a nightmarish time against the Chimera and the Gideon. Chimera can always cleanse away that setback. Gideon can always just portal in, and there's barely any escape for you. So all in all, I think it's gonna be a really, really hard game for Nightshade. I think with the Greystone also picked up, they can just press the W key. It's gonna be pretty hard for Nightshade to honestly respond, but I think on the flip side, right, we're gonna end on a high note. I think if Nightshade does get rolling, if they do get ahead, I think they can snowball pretty well as well. Having the Seraph with the damage and obviously the double carries are gonna be able, or are gonna be a menace in the late game. So I think if they get rolling early, I think they have a decent shot. If not, Space Cadets comp just looks so much easier to play.
Yeah, I think Space Cadets have a much easier time to Nightshade, considering the fact too that Nightshade's all physical damage. That makes it really easy for Space Cadets to have the Greystone Chimera just kind of counter build like Draconum, build like those like physical armor items that also help them do more damage, right? Because the big thing I'm seeing right here is that Space Cadets are like, okay, sure, you're gonna go for a triple ADC comp. Well, we got Chimera Greystone is kind of WQ forward, right? And it's also Gideon that's gonna be really hard for Nightshade to deal with. That like Gideon just have so much AoE damage and like team pressure. He's gonna be able to disrupt team fights super well, and so it's kind of almost like Nightshade has to go for like the small team fights, because as soon as it turns into 5v5, I think Space Cadets can easily just run over Nightshade's team comp right here.
I'm super excited to see how this game will go, because I want to see Nightshade be able to cook with this team comp. This is something different, something new that we don't really expect here at the PCC. But without further ado, this is game number 2 between Nightshade and Space Cadets. Let's send it over to Spooky Mars and Lance.
Spooky doesn't seem to have his stuff on, but I had to take my glasses off here. I got to take a look at these things. I put them back on. I looked
There's a
through
lot to
again.
look at.
That's still a Revenant ADC that they're playing. That's still
It's
right
still a
in the
Revenant
mid
ADC.
lane. Seraph potentially jungle, potentially off lane. This is wild. This is cooking, but I love it.
I mean, there's 2 teams here without a win so far. Both looking for their first one. They go up against each other. I mean, Lance, this is a crazy team comp that Nightshade has broken out to try to find that first win. Is Space Cadets the team to break that out against? I mean, I'm looking at everything. I'm not seeing magical damage on the side of Nightshade. Joe, I believe, was the one that mentioned that on the desk. Like, what is the game plan here?
The game plan, if you are Nightshade here, with the comp that they have, this is a early game comp. Yes, they've got Revenant, who's going to scale very well into the late game, but Wraith can be very ahead early. Seraph can get very ahead early. They've got a little bit of a cushion there for some scaling to catch themselves back up on here. But honestly, this is a game where if they do not blow up the early game quickly, and if they do not find themselves in the lead, they are going to get rolled over as long as this goes the way that it should and the way that it like normally does. This is a respectfully adjectived bold composition pick from the side of Nightshade here. Revenant in like a little bit of a weird spot, kind of hard to play it into a deck or two with the amount of lockdown that a decker has. You can put you in a cage, hit you with the stun, hit you with the ultimate. Ooh, a little bit of a face check here, level 1. The dirty. Oh, get a little bit of a hook, a little bit of a stun back onto Murdoch and Paris here. So the wave in an interesting spot as well, but trying to get the early cheese out. The early levels 1, 2, and 3 from the Revenant is very, very strong, able to get a lot of burst damage down with the obliterate that comes out from that primary ability. So maybe if that works, it gets that snowball rolling, like what we were talking about, needing to get the early kills, the early advantages to get an early goal lead, try to become insurmountable, but it's going to be tough. Seraph is moving immediately over to this.
Yeah, Saris looking for a potential gank here. I mean, as soon as you said early aggression, this is where my mind went. Seishin goes right on in, but this might not be such a great look. Rooted down in the tower, has to blink away instantly. So we're seeing some signs of aggression. You can tell that Nightshade wants to get this ball rolling, but maybe just a little bit too much aggression, because look at what this opens up for Just Row. He's able to just walk over into the right side jungle and start stripping away farm from Seishin and punish that early gank very effectively.
Yeah, this Space Cadets team may be new as a roster, but the players on it aren't. Ro has participated in almost every single PCC that we have had so far. If you show level 2 on the opposite side of the map, Ro is going to invade your opposite side. He's already picked up his blue buff, gonna get his 3 camp now, may even have a very good gank onto Blue Monster here in the offlane. We do get to the first rotation of river buffs, and we do know that nobody is on them. The mid laners know that nobody's on them. Based off of where people have positioned and moved throughout the map, they know that they're free to just kind of split these here. And we do have Ro making his first appearance. Gonna get the tempo play, go for that Scion buff, get himself the extra levels, get himself a little ahead. A little bit of a 1v1. The minions doing a lot of damage to Naps. You got to be careful here, bud. Minions do a lot of damage.
That's going to be okay for right now. There's going to have to be a little bit more damage coming his way before he falls on that one. But still, there's a lot of aggression in this early game so far. And, you know, we expected that from Nightshade, but it's also been Space Cadets who've been trying to kind of push that a little bit. Seishin makes another appearance over on this right side. The AGT is just going to go ahead and spin. Seishin might go down. The first blood finally comes through. It's the Space Cadets who are blasting off at the start of this game.
It does not feel like Seishin is on the same page as his laner so far. He's had 2 ganks. They came in. He used his primary ability on the Drongo Vessel Bros in the first one. Immediately got pulled himself into the tower. Has to use his blink to get away. Yep. Well, now he doesn't have that up to be able to gank the Greystone on the other side of the map goes in anyways, but Blue Monster isn't on the same page as him, isn't ready to be up there and help him. We are going to get a kill. Vessel Bros and OC just going to solo that Richter. And we were talking about how Nightshade needs to get ahead early because of what their comp is and the snowballiness of it. And 2-0 is not ahead early when you're the one on the opposite end of that. Also, you know, Seishin having to wait for his 5 camp to spawn a little bit, not super great on the pacing.
Yeah, it really feels like Nightshade is maybe being a little too aggressive, right? Obviously, this is a snowball comp that they want to get things rolling, but it almost feels like they're trying to force those opportunities rather than wait and set them up, right? You've got this Richter in your dual lane. You can allow the Space Cadets to take a step forward because of the displacement that Whiplash offers. It can really mess up the positioning and set up a nice gank. But instead, we're seeing Seishin trying to make these aggressive dives, trying to get active on AGT without Blue Monster in a position to help. It just tells me that Nightshade might need a little bit more patience, but they might not have that, as they now see the Fangtooth go down to the Space Cadets and a fight rolling on after Grassy trying to find his way out, but Just Ro cuts him down. Seishin is the next target as Naps and Murdoch and Pears try to peel. Just Ro goes on in. He does not care about this tower, but Naps punishes it. Finally gets one. A pull puts OC in the tower, but he's going to jump back out. Seek Nix on the back end looking to try to get Naps, and he finds him with a rock straight to the cranium. He's going to find his way right back out.
And this game has been broken wide open very early for Space Cadets. 5-1 already. We're able to get the first Fangtooth of the game right at that 5-minute, 30-second mark. Ro got a little aggro there, goes into the tower, chasing those kills. Yeah, Seeknix is able to come over. Well, when you're as head as you are, and when you've got the tools in the bag, and when you're a baller like Ro is honestly, let's just break it down. Ro plays with confidence. Ro knows he wears the big hat. He ain't afraid is the way that I'll put it. So the second I saw that, I know Ro is a dude. I know he's going in there. So I like to see that actually personally. I'm a little surprised that Nightshade even decided to contest or try to contest that Fangtooth. They're low. Their Richter had just came off of a death timer. They're resetting back there. It's most of the way dead by the time that they get here. We do have the Coliseum come out. AGT gonna make something happen with the blast cone. Ro shows up just in time, but AGT is going to fall, and Blue Monster should be able to walk himself out. They do get that blink, so Ro may come back in the next 5 minutes. But pretty good pickup there for Nightshade. Get themselves kind of back there as Blue Monster does pick it up.
Greasy still putting out some damage here despite the deficit in the duo lane. OC gonna have to take a step back, go back to base, and maybe that's a way for Nightshade to finally find some pressure in this duo lane, get some kind of farm advantage. You can see that gold buff is up and available. If Greasy's able to pick that up, it's a little bit more to his pockets. But in the meantime, in the mid lane, Naps gonna be taken down. You see some signs of life on one side of the map, and then just death comes through on another. Nightshade really struggling to find their footing and hold their ground right now.
They are. This is also going to put some pressure into this mid lane tower. We did just cross the 8-minute mark, so those extra platings, the extra armors for the tier 1 towers are all gone. They may be able to rip this, take this all the way down. Seraph is here to try to defend, but I don't know if this is what you want, Seraph. Yeah, no, they might be. Oh, they're not quite going to be able to get the tower. But the next minion wave that can get into this, if they can get another kill onto Naps, make it so nobody can defend that mid tier 1, it will fall. Losing it this early would be very devastating for the side of Nightshade too, as it opens the map up so much. Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself, Spooky. I'm glad you're on the same page as me. Ooh, look at this.
Every now and then.
A support roam all of the way over into the offlane. Blue Monster having to kind of turn around and run away. The stun ball had already hit him. That is a long way from home for Decker.
Yeah, OC does not care. He went to mid lane, decided to try to help out there, see if they could get the tower. No dice. It's going to be picked up by the minions here. But after that, OC just goes over to the right side, says, hey, can we find any pressure anywhere on this map? They sure can. Nightshade Has some pressure on the left side as a result right now, but keep your eyes on this mini prime. Just Ro's been looking at it a few times as Station comes crashing down directly in front of him. Naps might be in a tough spot here. Looks like they're not going to commit to too much, though. Just passing in the night. Black hole gets dropped. It doesn't quite catch Naps. That's a big ultimate down for the Space Cadets, and if Nightshade wants an opportunity, this might be the time.
It might be. I'm not positive it's a smart time to take that opportunity. I've been tracking these junglers on the minimap throughout this game, and it feels like Station is just kind of since those first 2 ganks that happened very early. We got the level 2 gank out of the Seraph that didn't work very well. The other gank onto the Greystone that ended up costing Station his life. Since then, it kind of feels like he's been shadowing Ro. He's been trying to be reactionary to where Ro is going, but always a step behind him, pretty far behind him in farm, behind him in kills, as Ro is now 3-1, as already has the Overlord completed, gonna get this tier 1 tower with no doubt at all at this point. So he's impacted 2 towers falling. Yeah, nobody got the local gold because the minions got it in the mid lane, but done a bunch of damage to both of them. That second Fangtooth of the game is up, so Station is going to start making his own plays and not have to be reactionary, which is where you want to see them at. They do know Rose on the other side of the map, and this is free. So a little bit of life from the side of Nightshade, which you just like to see. They're not just going to roll over and take this one. They are going to come back. They get themselves that extension to their buffs and a little bit of hope. Spooky, a little bit of hope.
And that's an important thing to have, right? Because the way this game is going so far, it's very easy to take a hit to the morale. 6-2, you just lost 2 tier 1 towers, you're down a Fangtooth. Just being able to get one objective on the map is a boost to keep your heads back in this game. Now, it does mean the Space Cadets are going to wisely make that objective trade, take the mini prime for themselves. But that's something that Nightshade has most definitely already calculated for. Blue Monster now in some danger, drops Coliseum and flips the script. He's not in danger, just Ro gets taken down. 3-0 no longer as the Black Hole tries to rip some damage out, but AGT not gonna have enough health to survive the monster that is Blue Monster. Seek Nix now the one standing here trying to put damage out onto Naps, but Shin comes through. The jungler is here, comes over the wall. Seek Nix has nowhere to go, and Naps finally puts him down. Nightshade have answered.
Oh, and that is so big for them to kill Ro immediately after he gets the Orb Prime buff too, so they don't have that pushing power in any of their lanes. I don't believe he had a shutdown, but there's still some gold rewarded for killing him, of course. Get an opportunity where they are the ones that can reset, set the pace for this, try to get Nightshade to start reacting to them instead of this, but great map awareness, great moving around, getting themselves into their own blue side jungle where they know the enemies are going to be. Get those pickoffs, which were very important. You already have 2 of your tier 1 towers down. Ro is probably on his way over to the left side of the map to take that in the dual lane as well, or even potentially pressure some tier 2s, but we will never know because they took him down.
Yeah, excellent plays coming out from Nightshade. And we were just talking about morale boosts, Lance. That's the biggest one right there. You went from 6-2 to 6-5, stripped away the mini prime. Like, that could not have gone better for Nightshade. And if they were feeling rough before, well, now Blue Monster has a 2-level lead over in this offlane over AGT. They've got some actual leverage they can use now to put themselves in this game. As I say that, TVB finds a kill over on the left side. Greasy goes down. But still, not the end of the world. Where are you expecting this game to start flowing here? Station may be looking for a gank.
So I would expect this game to start flowing towards the direction. Oh, what a hook!
Oh, he's toast. Goodbye. Seek Nix, though, is here as well. Station and Naps both very far forward. Station goes under the tower. That leaves the 2 back to be rotated on by Justro and Seek Nix. TVB survives under the tower, and the tower does all the damage to Station. Murdoch and Paris trying to find his way back out of this fight. Naps taken down by the 2v2. Man, what a misstep from Nightshade.
Yeah, I'm at a small loss for words here because I'm not super positive about that dive onto Vessels there. You know,
No?
he's level 9. You know it's Drongo. He's got the gag grenade he can put on top of you. He's got the shrapnel cannon in order to move himself away from you. He's also got a blink in his kit. They should be tracking the blinks. They should know that he's got that blink, and if you go into the tier 1 tower, he's just going to pop himself away from you. Seraph, not the tankiest hero in the game, not super easy to take a bunch of shots the way that some of these other beefier jungles are able to. So that ends up costing them that life, a little bit of the lead they were trying to put themselves back towards. And this game feels... Honestly, this game feels very open. You see opportunities where it looks like Nightshade's got an advantage. They've got the right comps. They're hitting the right abilities at the right time. And then you see them split in team fights where they're on different targets and they're not able to quite knock any of the priorities that they're looking for down. And I feel like right now, the way that this game is positioned, although it feels like Space Cadets has been in control for most of this, I kind of feel like it's Nightshade that's dictating the way that these team fights go and the way that the rest of this game is going to head to, because it's kind of about if Seraph gets onto the right person, if they're playing in the right spot as a team, for whether or not they're taking these fights and these objectives and all of the spots around it. But we do have a big gank coming out onto Naps.
Ouch.
He's going to have to run for his life here. I do think he'll get out with the blast gun. Not quite enough damage, but Ro's not willing to let him go. Okay, he is going to turn around.
Yeah. I think it's a wise choice from just Ro, because take a look at the rest of Nightshade. Just drifting towards this left side here. Like you said, they've been the ones trying to force things to happen. They're the ones that are going to show up to this Fangtooth first. Now, Space Cadets are in the area. They've been doing a very good job of responding and working as a full unit. They've been a lot more cohesive than Nightshade has so far. That means they're going to be the ones that start the Fangtooth. Nightshade is still here.
Blue Monster does get the solo local gold on the outside tower, but here comes Station into it. Actually is able to pick it up.
Steal it
Good
away!
deal.
Black Hole is dropped, but Murdoch and Paris is the first one to fall in this fight. Nightshade have taken the Fangtooth, but they might be taking a spill as well. All 4 members go down. The Space Cadets have no problem with that trade.
Yeah, you know, you win the objective, but at what cost? 4 members do
4
go
people.
down. 4 people. I guess that's the cost, huh, Spooky? Thank you, Mr. Obvious. So Blue Monster does get the tier 1 tower on the other side. Blue Monster quite a bit ahead of AGT2 right now. I think that Nightshade desperately needs to start playing around the Blue Monster. A couple of levels ahead, as I just previously stated, now has that extra gold in his pocket too. Should be moving close to the 3-item mark as we are at 17 minutes into this game. Zaris has a couple of Coliseum stacks as we've seen him get kills within that ult too, and AGT2 has to run here. He might just get soloed down. He's just going to get poked by the spear. Does the stun land?
On the map,
That's a very early ult, and Just Ro does turn around. The full comes out. Now it's Blue Monster
Seek next.
being chased away.
There's a lot of people on their way to put Blue Monster down. He's had the level lead, but now they've got the numbers advantage. The Coliseum can't keep him alive. And Lance, this is so much to your point here. The leverage that Nightshade has had has been Blue Monster. We haven't seen him played around. It's always been Station going to the left side of the map. And now Space Cadets, they're the ones that react to this level lead on the right side of the map, and they put him down very effectively.
Yes, and I think that that Space Cadets is right for prioritizing trying to get him there. Although it was, or it's not trying to get him, reacting to the overchase by him. Blue Monster's feeling very confident, as you can see from him running from one tier 1 to the other tier 2. But the teamwork of Space Cadets coming together, rotating everybody over. Seeknix comes over. Just Ro is on his way, gets there, able to take him down. He also, Blue Monster, committed the cooldown ultimate right as he was dying there. I'm not sure if he thought there was a new change to that 100 to 0 is a hero if you use it or something, but that goes on cooldown as well. Yeah, the death timer eats a portion of it, so it won't be on cooldown for that long once he's up, but you need that in team fights. You need that in case something pops off. So hopefully we can see a little bit more discipline out of Blue Monster to be able to hold that, because they're kind of going to be on his back for the rest of this game. Station is coming through, starting to get a little bit of gold. Had a really nice steal on the Fangtooth just a minute ago. But this is kind of Blue Monster and the boys versus Space Cadets right now, in my opinion.
I think it's a very apt way of putting it, Lance. Like we mentioned earlier, the Space Cadets have felt very cohesive. When they're looking for something, they are moving and executing their plans as a full team, right? We don't see them splitting apart in these fights. They're focusing their targets very effectively. Nightshade has felt a little bit lost in some of these fights. We see Blue Monster left on his own. OC is just going to get pulled in. He's going to jump right back out. And what is this? Station goes into 3 people again by himself. Just Row jumps on the back end, but he's got his team right there. TVB putting out the damage, landing every shot he needs to. It's a double kill for the Drongo. And Nightshade are once again limping away from this fight.
And the rest of the boys are on their way to help with Blue Monster here as AGT taking a little bit of damage, but his ultimate should be back up the Stoneforged Soul. Yeah, he's going to pop it right away. Seeknix following behind him here should have the Torn Space. They should catch him. The passive's on him. There's the black hole. And the monster gets put down. Pull him out from underneath the bed. You're not scaring nobody. We've got a 20-minute Orb Prime being ripped by the Space Cadets right now, Spooky. And I want to go back just a little bit to OC. They got Murdoch and Paris got a super nice hook onto him. He felt like he was dead to rights. He also got skewered by him right away. But Station comes in and is using his primary ability on OC, which locks him onto where OC is at. OC flashes forward, self-ult immediately onto where he's at as the Seraph drops out of it, gets stunned, and then blown up immediately by the rest of the members of Space Cadets. OC surviving that, and then also being able to ult on top of himself to get that out, to lock that CC down, to make sure he got out and his teammates could take that, is what completely swung that. That's what opened up their ability to take that Orb Prime, because the enemy jungler on Nightshade was dead there. So shout out to the Decker. Supports can never get enough love in Lance's book.
Oh, you know what? In Spooky's book, supports get too much love. Put them down, boys. I'm a little salty for my last games. Don't worry about me. Sation, meanwhile, also feels probably a little bit salty about how that last fight went. And now just Row is just running him down in his jungle, trying to use the iframes. But look how many people are here. Station has nowhere to go. There's full aggression from the Cadets in the Nightshade's jungle. They're just walking wherever they want right now, finding every lead that they can. And this feels like it's going to turn into a Primal Fangtooth to maybe an Inhibitor Siege pretty soon here.
It easily could turn into an Inhibitor Siege. This does only even the Fangteeth score up 2-2 apiece. Both of them are going to have that out-of-combat movement speed. So luckily for Nightshades, they're not hitting that third one because of that really good steal that the Seraph had on the last one that we had seen in that pit. So a huge advantage. Double buffed up at 22 minutes. Double buffs are very powerful, and the earlier in the map you get them, the stronger they are, because the enemies don't have the stats to be able to defend with those buffed up minions, to have the extra health to be able to survive that primordial blaze. So at 22 minutes, it is incredibly threatening, and they should be able to walk in, take any of these tier 2 towers that they want, unless they commit several men to defense them. And both the Seraph and the Zarus over on the right side of the map, not near any of the members of the Space Cadets right now.
Just Row gonna be stepping up, taking this tier 2 in the mid lane. Like you said, there's so many members of Nightshade that just aren't in position to make a defense here. And it's opening up this left side inhibitor to some damage. TVB actually finds Murdoch and Paris on the left side. Now Just Row able to make a rotation over as well. They've got quite a bit of push potential. 3-1 split for now, with AGT coming up the mid lane. Potentially cracking this inhibitor. Good God, the damage on it is insane. 23 minutes, mid inhibitor is down. OC's not even there with them.
No, not there He's just coming in. He was spending a little bit of time in the red buff. Now has joined in. The second inhib should fall very quickly here. Do they have their eyes set on this core? They have the minion waves. They have the ability to rip them down very quickly. In comes it.
Naps already dead. As Cygnus drops the black hole on the core. Forces 3 of Nightshade back to the base. It's a 3v5 on the core. And I don't know if they've got what it takes. The Coliseum gets dropped. Looking to try to find Seishin here. And he's got some health still there. He puts TVB down. That's a base source of damage no longer available for the Space Cadets. AGT jumps on in, but Greasy finds another one. Core still over half health as the Nightshade begins to push back. AGT extremely low, has to blink out. OC, the next target. Seishin has his eyes on the Decker, gets caged down, but Greasy is here as well. Obliterate comes through, no slow though, and OC gets to survive.
Oh, so we get a little bit longer of a game, Spooky. It was starting to feel like that was going to be the final push. They were going to get in there and be able to take it out. The core is left with 30% health in it, but they are going to have to regroup. Very large purchases waiting for the side of Space Cadets in the base for them right now. You see Vessel Bros and Just Row had fallen, so they will already have those purchases made by the time that this is reset. And no large neutral objectives up right now. The real priority for them, if they were going to try to seize anything, would be the tier 2 in the offlane side right now. Probably just going to get a reset here, set the lanes into the positions they want, get the ward set up that they want, maybe try to find 1 or 2 people out of position if they can get it to get a pick. But right now it is a farming, waiting for these objectives to respawn so that we can do all of this again, make that final push in, try to get to 1-1 on the day, get some momentum rolling into round 3 so one of these teams can hopefully make the top 8 at the end of the day.
And this is such a different situation than a late game defense, right? Nightshade pulls out a critical defense around their core. It's fantastic. But as you touched on, there are purchases still to be made for the Space Cadets. This isn't the case where you fended off a full build team, dug your heels in, and you're looking at doing that one more time, right? No. These guys are going to come back, and they're going to come back stronger than they were on that first siege. And it doesn't change anything for Nightshade. They still have to do it again, but they have to do it against a stronger foe. More damage, more durability. And if Space Cadets chooses to play this a little bit slower, could very easily go for the double buffs again.
They could, and it is not that long until this Orb Prime is going to spawn. Actually, it should be up by now if it isn't. So they're going to take this Blast Cone here. It is going to be a little scary for the members of Nightshade to be able to get in here, and AGT2 doing what he can, being a big physical wall that isn't going to let anybody by him. Yes, he had a little bit of a rough game, but we talked about their composition. Exactly, so we talked about their composition. They're all armor. So we already see, actually it doesn't look like Greystone had gone that far into that direction with the armor. But we got to fight.
Soul, Stoneforge Soul comes through, keep AGT alive. What a black hole to strike through so much of those health bars. Murdoch and Paris already down for the count as Blue Monster quickly falls as well. Station drops as well. It's only Greasy and Naps left alive to try to hold this line. 2v5. Is it even 2? Greasy goes down in a heartbeat. TVB has no remorse, no mercy, and the Space Cadets look to wrap this one up. The core cracks again, and Nightshade fall 0-2. Space Cadets tie their score.
So good job out of the Space Cadets here. I want to take a second, highlight some of the players and the score lines that we see. Both Seeknix and OC 3-1 and 11. You just love to see that. Wow. Very small amounts of deaths on them. Only Rowe got above the 2 mark there. Rowe's got 8 kills to himself. Vessel Bros 11, 1, and 9. Didn't even get to his full potential, his final form, as the game ends before he's able to collect all of his items up there. But a pretty strong performance coming out of Space Cadets there. They are looking very comfortable in what they picked. And, you know, as far as Nightshade goes, that's why they call it gambling. Sometimes you lose. Sometimes you're gonna lock in 2 ADCs, not pick any magic damage up on your team, and you're going to run into a composition that can kind of stonewall that, keep yourself in a position where you're not able to do a lot of damage to them. And I would like to see Nightshade try something similar again, as I know that they played a very close game to Professors in round 1, and they did have Revenant within that game as Greasy was playing that too. So keep your chins up. You just got to win the rest of your games, and you can still definitely qualify here, Nightshade. But good job to the Space Cadets today.
Yeah, excellent work for Space Cadets. Looked clinical and clean throughout that game. Like you said, Nightshade doesn't have too much to be broken up about. That composition did look rather experimental, had a couple problems. And if you're going to do that, you might as well do it early, see if it works out. It didn't this time, but they know for the next time. That's going to be it from me and Lance on the cast here. Let's go back to the desk to break it down.
Thank you, Spooky and Lance. Welcome back to the desk. We just finished watching Nightshade versus Space Cadets, with Space Cadets absolutely dominating game number 2. We saw some really bold moves and a very bold team comp from Nightshade, and I was really looking forward to seeing how they will manage to pull it off and if they can scale with their duo ADC draft.
Yeah, I think in this series we did see that the game definitely begins with the draft, and I honestly think, like, even after those decent Fang plays, I think it is just pretty impossible to play for them. We see a bit of a highlight reel there, outplays coming in by the Drongo, good steals coming in by the Seraph, but even with that, honestly, it's just not good enough, because with that draft, I think they were on such a big disadvantage that as soon as the Seraphs got shut down on the right hand side, it was pretty impossible to play the game for the side of Nightshade. They did have 2 ADCs, but the one thing that is better than 2 ADCs is actually a comp that can play around it. That's why Drongo, Twitch, Vessel Bros popped off, had the most kill participation in the game as well, and carried his team to victory with really good play by the jungler as well, and by the rest of his team as well.
Yeah, Nightshade playing this favorite snowballing comp, and they tried to make some really aggressive plays, but I think they went a little too aggressive with that Sarah's on level 2 gank, just not really working out well in their favor, having to bust the blink, and then Sarah decided to go gank the offlane, and then she's not strong enough to take on that offlaner, and when she got in, she has no blink, she just dies early, right? So it kind of puts them in a really awkward position where Sarah just has a snowball, and that immediately went out the window within the first 4 minutes of that game right there. It was just kind of hard to watch them trying to make play after plays. They tried really hard, but they just kind of got a little bit outclassed by this other team right here.
And Joey, I really like what Blue Monster did in the early game as well. He did a good job with his matchup against the Greystone. He was pressing W continuously on the offlane, and he's definitely was the key to his team's victory, or if they were to secure that victory. And looking at the stats, he was 75% kill participation. But after watching this game, that just lowered the stats on Zaris as one of the heroes here at PCC.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily Blue Monster's fault at all, right? The entire map was losing. I think one criticism is maybe he should have been there for the second Fang fight, or actually the third one. They did steal the second one away. The third one, I think they got wiped as 4 people. Just pretty desperate times on the other side of the map. And honestly, Blue Monster did pretty well against AGT on that Greystone. Did get a 2.5 level lead, but honestly, you can win the game. It's pretty darn hard, especially with the Chimera, as we mentioned before, picking up that kill early on Station Ban on that Seraph that honestly did struggle quite a bit. Joey was mentioning it before, right? That level 2 gank was something I only see in my nightmares, and I think Station Ban is gonna be is also gonna see that in his nightmares moving on. So yeah, definitely well played by Space Cadets, though. Deserved the win. Nightshade, yeah, as I mentioned, maybe go back to the drawing board in terms of drafting, and then you are gonna have a more fun playing the game as well.
Speaking of nightmares, that waste build is it's gonna give me some nightmares for tonight, because if you guys missed that, Waste decided to build Lightning Hawk, tainted rounds, and then the first item we trying to build was Sky's Builder, which is like, I have cooked some illegal stuff in my life, but I will never cook something like that race build at all. Because if you're gonna be doing like an on-hit build, you might as well play like a killer mid, or if you're gonna not be comfortable with the combos of race, just play someone like Iggy that has like auto-locking tolerance that actually provides that sustained damage this Team Comp desperately need right there. But hey, sometimes we do have those off games. I'm hoping that's just the one off game they had, and that they kind of go back to the drawing board, as Tane said, and try to get their head in the game for the next 3 games.
The casters also highlighted this, and they picked what they were comfortable with, but they gotta pick or find what works for them moving forward. But unfortunately, we do have to say goodbye to Joey and Tang. It was a pleasure to share the desk with you both.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was a really good time being here. Honestly, the games were bangers, even though like some of them were not as close as we were hoping to. I think they still delivered in terms of entertainment value, good casting as well coming in from the rest of the guys. So definitely always an enjoyable time. And Joey, just always a pleasure being in the analyst role with you. So definitely was fun doing that.
Yeah,
and obviously Ardog as well. Sorry, I don't want to miss that.
Yeah, I absolutely love casting with both you, Tane, and Arda. It's always my pleasure. And it's just like these 2 days have just been a lot of fun. Like yesterday was the 50-minute banner, and then today was some illegal cooking going on in this game. Like it's just a large variety of some really fun games. But I'm just looking forward to see how the rest of the game is going to go for today. So thank you for having me here.
Illegal cooking from the kitchen here at the PCC. If you like what you're seeing here today, chat, make sure that you drop us a follow, give us a subscription. We're on every social media you can think of. We are a community-based tournament with share the love for Pred just like you. We'll be right back with game number 3.